Hello everyone, Battlebots Explained here, and welcome to the round of 16. So guys, Season 5 has been quite an amazing season, and the round of 32 fights certainly were amazing. We had some amazing fights in them, we had some explosive hits, just a whole bunch of explosions in general. Uh, and yeah, so far this season has been amazing, and the round of 32 has been amazing. Now, of course, we all had our predictions about how this bracket was going to go down, and some of us, some of us were a little bit more accurate with our predictions than others, and some of us just got completely lucky, and then also some of us, crazy things happened in this bracket, especially on this right side, which I'll get into. But guys, today, what I'm going to mainly be doing is I'm going to give my personal predictions on who is going to effectively get out of this round of 16 into the quarterfinals. And yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today, guys. If you enjoy these types of videos, please leave a like. Also consider subscribing. And before we do that, first I'm going to go into the matchups themselves, and we're going to talk just real quick about my predictions and how accurate my personal predictions were. I'm sure that all of you guys have already done this for your own predictions. I'm just doing that here. So, if you don't believe me, go watch my round of 32 predictions video, and you'll see my predictions at the time. So, Hydra versus Hypershock. Was there any... I'm still baffled that anybody thought that Hypershock would upset Hydra. It just wasn't going to happen, and it ended up being way worse for Hypershock than I actually thought. And so Hydra did win that. I actually believe I mentioned in my round of 32 predictions video that Hypershock may lose this fight even worse than it did in the last season. I believe I said that. And that was true, it's just that, my goodness, Hydra just landed so many flips on Hypershock, won really without much of a problem. Malice versus Gigabyte. Again, I don't know why anybody would think that Malice would win. I do like the Malice team, and I do like their bot, but there was just no way, though, that they were beating Gigabyte. Full body spinner, completely enclosed, very well armored. Even if the spinner shut down, I think that the angled sides would have given Malice basically nothing to really grab onto, and as we know, Gigabyte did win that fight. Whiplash versus Huge. Again, was there any doubt? There was basically no doubt in my mind that this was going to go the exact same way that it did back in 2019. And I was correct about that, except in my opinion, guys, though, this fight was actually better than their original fight in 2019, because the Whiplash team, they started using their vertical disc a little bit more in this fight. They actually managed to hit and do some damage to the body of Huge, which basically nobody does. It wasn't a whole lot of damage, but still there was actual damage done to it, which I think was actually pretty impressive, and Whiplash moved on. Then we have Valkyrie Sub-Zero. Again, this was a relatively easy pick, but I'll admit, guys, I was really impressed with how long Sub-Zero lasted in this fight, because, I mean, this was effectively a Tombstone Bronco style matchup, and Sub-Zero didn't have much of a chance, but still, it almost beat Valkyrie within the first few seconds of the fight. And I'll try and do a fight analysis on that at some point, but this was a really amazing fight. I did predict Valkyrie would win, and it did. Uppercut Hijinks. This is one of those matches that I actually predicted eerily perfectly, actually, because if you watch my original round of 32 predictions video, you'll know that I said that Hijinks will be lucky to still be in the arena right out the gate. And Uppercut threw Hijinks out of the arena within a few seconds, so I got that prediction really correct, and Uppercut did move forward. Biena versus Rebot. Oh, Biena versus Rebot. I will not understand why so many people, why the majority thought Biena would win this. Because all of you guys know that John Reed's never going to fire the darn hammer. And as I said, that fight would come down to what configuration Ribbot chooses. Do they be stupid and go with the undercutter for this fight, or do they go with the vertical spinner and be smart? They went with the vertical spinner forks, and John Reed effectively lost his mind in this fight, I believe. The anti-vertical armor did the exact opposite of what it was supposed to do, and Ribbot beat the living heck out of Biena, and John Reed just wouldn't fire the darn hammer. The only time he fired the darn hammer, if I remember correctly, is he fired it directly into Rebot's spinner, which just let Ribbot uppercut it more. So Biena got clobbered by Rebot, another prediction that I did get right. I will never understand why so many people went for Biena, though. Black Dragon Slammo, this was a tough fight for me personally, because I did say that Black Dragon would win this fight because I knew that there was a future Black Dragon Tombstone fight potentially coming up, or more so that was spoiled for me, and so I knew Black Dragon would win this. I wasn't expecting Craig Danby to be so salty afterward, because I'll try to do a fine analysis on this at some point, but let me just say for right now, Slammo, you got one lift on Black Dragon. You got one lift on an invertible, extremely durable and reliable bot, and you say that you almost had him. Nonsense. I'll just say that right now. So Black Dragon did win. I did predict that fight correctly, and Black Dragon moved on to the round of 16. Then we have Mad Cat or Tombstone. I already did a fight analysis on this, guys, and if you guys watched that, you'll know exactly everything that went wrong in this fight for Mad Catter. Yeah, basically their tactics were not really the best, and Ray Billings did manage to win this fight. Now, I did say in my previous video, in my predictions video, that all logic points to Mad Catter winning this fight. However, I went against logic and went with Tombstone because Tombstone Black Dragon happens. And so Tombstone did win, and now goes over to face Black Dragon. Now let's go over to the other side of the bracket. By the way, this side of the bracket I actually predicted every fight correctly. On the other side of the bracket, I wasn't so lucky. So let's talk about Bloodsport versus Gruff. I predicted Bloodsport would win, mostly because I knew that their forks were way lower than Gruff, and that that would give them an advantage. I did not expect Bloodsport's weapon to snap on the very first impact. That I absolutely did not see coming. Also, I personally would have thought that it would be wiser for the Bloodsport team to perhaps use their horizontal disc, their overhead disc, instead of the tri-bar. But they went with the tri-bar, though. It should have more energy than the disc and certainly more bite and reach, but that was at the cost of being way more vulnerable to a solid wedge such as Gruff. So Bloodsport's blade broke immediately, and however, Gruff really wasn't able to take advantage nearly as much as I would have thought it would have, and despite that, Bloodsport still managed to pull off the win, and actually controlled Gruff to quite an extent in several moments of that fight. So my prediction was right, but really not how I thought it would be, so Bloodsport moved on. Next we have Fusion versus Tantrum. Again, another fight that did not exactly go the way I thought it would be, but I did get one detail right, though. I mentioned that chances are what's going to happen is that pretty early into the fight, after a few collisions happen, Fusion is going to burn up, catch fire, just whatever, it's just going to burn out. I didn't exactly mean that in the literal sense, and also I was not expecting for Tantrum to, 1, go with their forks instead of their wedge, and 2, I wasn't expecting for the weapon to get bent out of shape by Fusion's horizontal spinner. I also wasn't expecting, of course, for Fusion to land on top of Tantrum and catch fire, so Fusion got counted out while on top of Tantrum. I don't think that has ever happened in Battlebots history before. So that is absolutely hilarious. So I did get this fight correct, not in the way I thought it would, and Tantrum did move on. Sawblaze versus Kraken. I got this prediction right, and you guys may remember I did say that Sawblaze might just cave in Kraken's head. It didn't quite cave in the head, but it did do quite a bit of damage to the head, and of course also tore the wheel off of Kraken. But I'll definitely give Kraken this, though. They got quite a strong clamp. They really do. Their crusher is really strong, and they just stopped Sawblaze's overhead spinner, just grabbed onto it, would not let go for a long time. And yeah, Kraken, you lasted a lot longer than I thought you would, and still very good performance from you guys. Great to have you in the top 32, but Sawblaze did, unfortunately, though, wipe the floor with Kraken. Then we have Scorpios and the bot that shall not be named. You guys know that I am not very much a fan of this bot, specifically the name of it. Yes, I understand that it's a very efficient design, especially back in 2019. you guys know the reason why I don't like this bot. So, the reason I predicted Scorpios to win was not just because I'm not a fan of this bot. The reason I predicted Scorpios to win is because, again, in their Bounty Hunter episode, they had these anti-vertical spinner prongs. I did not think that the Scorpios team basically invented those prongs after the main tournament because of this fight. I thought that they had them prior to the Bounty Hunter tournament. Apparently, they made those specifically for the Bounty Hunter tournament, which is why they were so effective against, say, bots like Hypershock. So, I did predict this fight incorrectly. However, Scorpio still put up a heck of a good fight, and I do think they made quite a few driving mistakes during the fight. It's a shame that the overhead spinner went down, but this is definitely a fight that I got wrong and predicted wrong. Now to the fight that I'm pretty sure just about everybody just completely lost it when this happened. Copperhead, the number 3 ranked robot in this tournament, got beaten by Mammoth. Just give that a second. The number 3 ranked robot in the tournament went 3-0, unbeaten, gets beaten by an extremely well-driven pipe frame. I don't know. I really don't have much to say about this about this fight here, other than wow. Mammoth, I apologize for saying that you were just gonna crumble, because you're actually way more durable than I think anybody gives you credit for. Mammoth upset Copperhead, and that was absolutely shocking. Now we come to the last fight that I predicted incorrectly, and that's Lockjaw versus Shatter. Now, guys, at the time I made the prediction, I believe that Lockjaw would beat Shatter. I thought Donald Hudson's bot would get underneath it, and I thought he would be able to outdrive Shatter. During the premiere of my predictions video, however, somebody mentioned that Shatter... This is a spoiler for you guys, just so you know, that Shatter apparently fought Endgame later on in the season. For that to happen, it's impossible for Lockjaw to beat Shatter. So, during the premiere of my previous video, I was spoiled. That did not feel great. Just so you know, you do know who you are. But yeah, I ended up getting this prediction wrong, and I was very wrong about it. I did not think that Shatter's hammer would have enough power to KO Lockjaw, and it was a combination of Shatter just hitting Lockjaw, and also Lockjaw's reliability problems once again starting to surface. Lockjaw has a serious smoking addiction, if you guys don't know. Where, especially in 2019, we're saying a minute and a half into the fight, smoke. I believe that was the weapon motor, Donald Hudson stressing the weapon motor too much, and that's what caused the smoking problem that Lockjaw had. So, Shatter did upset Lockjaw, and again, I absolutely predicted this wrong, and I was spoiled about the outcome during my own premiere. So, that was an interesting... that was just a very interesting moment for me there. Next up, we have Shatter... No, sorry, not Shatter. Endgame versus Perfect Phoenix. Again, guys, I really like the Perfect Phoenix team, and I really like the bot. I really like their driver, Tyler. He's an amazing driver. He won so many fights, and he did excellent at Battlebots, and he did very respectable here in the Battlebots Season 5. There was no way that poor Tyler could win against Endgame, however. But I will absolutely give him this, though. He lasted longer against Endgame than Ray Billings did. That's an accomplishment. Partially because of the wedge, because Endgame couldn't really get a good bite on Perfect Phoenix for the first section of the fight, mostly because of the hinged wedge on front. Endgame did eventually get a good impact, and flipped Perfect Phoenix over a few times, landed some huge hits, and did defeat Perfect Phoenix, and I did predict that one correctly. So Endgame did move on. Also, because of the Shatter spoiler, I knew that Endgame was going to win this. Then we come to the final fight of the round of 32, which was Jackpot versus Rotator. I did not want either of these bots to have to lose here, because I like both of them so much. Unfortunately, though, my prediction was correct to an extent, but at the same time, though, I did not think that Jackpot would attach a hinged wedge to the or just a loose fitting wedge onto the rear of the bot. I think that was really, really good for them, and it did cause Rotator to pop off the wedge and to fly for a little while. Unfortunately, though, eventually Rotator didn't land a big enough hit on Jackpot to, first of all, send Rotator flying, and also send Jackpot upside down, tipped it over, and because of the weight of the wedge, Jackpot was not able to have their self-riding arm, and so they were counted out. So yeah, I did predict this fight correctly that Rotator would win, but again though, I didn't want these two bots to fight. I like them so much, but one of them had to go, unfortunately. So if you guys are wondering what my total predictions record was for the round of 32, it was effectively I got 13 predictions out of 16 correct, which I don't think is all that bad. I think that's a pretty respectable prediction record. So, let's hope that I don't completely trash my good record here by predicting the next fights incorrectly. So let's start off with Hydra versus Gigabyte. Oh boy, this is, oh goodness. I think I'm gonna need to take a drink of water first. Okay, so Hydra versus Gigabyte. This is one of those fights where I really don't know. Because on one hand, I know that Hydra does have an anti-spinner wedge. And if I remember the old photo correctly, it's a pretty good size anti-spinner wedge. On the other side, we don't know how much Hydra getting stuck on the floor or their overall durability is going to come back to haunt them in this fight. Because unlike with Hypershock, where it's always just going to ride on top of Hydra and flip to the ceiling and back, Gigabyte has enough weapon power that if it gets a good hit on Hydra, it could just tear open the side. Because remember, Gigabyte did a surprising amount of damage to a Claw Viper. And Claw Viper was a pretty solid bot to be able to endure what it endured from Hijinks. And so, I don't know, this is a really, really tough fight. I'll say this, there is a really, really, really good chance still, despite what I said, that Hydra could say that Gigabyte can make a driving mistake, get flown into a wall, or Hydra could use the wedge to push him into a wall, and once Gigabyte's slowed down enough, Hydra sends them to the ceiling and back 15-16 times. And that is a really, really, really high possibility. I'm not denying that. I don't know why, but I'm going to go with Gigabyte upsetting Hydra just because I don't know if Hydra will be able to withstand the impacts from Gigabyte. Because, keep in mind guys, Hydra has never fought a horizontal spinner in Battlebots so far. It has not fought a single horizontal spinner. All of its opponents have been either vertical spinners or lifters or something like that. It has not fought a single horizontal spinner so far, much less a full body spinner. So we currently don't know how well Hydra will hold up. And again, this is kind of 50-50 for me, because there's a good chance that Hydra might survive and the wedge will be fine and they'll send Gigabyte to the ceiling a dozen times, maybe even out of the arena. I don't know if it will be able to survive, and so I'm going to take a risk and say Gigabyte upsets Hydra, although again, it can go either way, but officially, I'm going to go with Gigabyte so far. Now we have Whiplash versus Valkyrie. Well guys, what do you think I'm going to say? These two fought before, and Whiplash beat the living heck out of poor Valkyrie after they had an impressive season. So, naturally, I'm going to go with Whiplash again to win this fight. I feel this is going to go kind of, maybe a reverse of how Lockjaw Bombshell happened in 2018 and 2019. Where in the first fight, it was a really, really quick KO by Lockjaw. The first two, and then Bombshell did a little bit better in the third fight, but not that great. I think Whiplash is still going to beat Valkyrie. But I do think Valkyrie is going to, I think the weapon is going to be alive longer in this fight. Partially because if the Valkyrie team are smart in this fight, they will not use their triple tooth disc, their weapon bar, or the double tooth disc. If they're smart, they will use. If they still have it, they'll use the disc that has a whole bunch of teeth. I think they call it like they call it something to do with Sonic the Hedgehog. I think. Just whatever it was a disc that had a whole bunch of teeth on it. It's like between 8 and 12, I think, if I remember correctly. Because having that many weapon teeth means that you don't get massive hits off of Whiplash's wedge, which, by the way, is really, really tough. It's just not going to break. So, not only if Valkyrie uses that attachment will they be able to not careen off the side of Whiplash's wedge and die instantly, they'll also probably slowly loosen the bolts of the wedge, and they will possibly be able to last much, much longer in the fight and maybe win it. I don't think Valkyrie's going to win this fight, though. I'm going to go with Whiplash, but hey, for me, I would kind of really enjoy seeing Valkyrie somehow win this fight. Especially, like I said, if they use the disc that has a lot of teeth on it. Maybe I personally think that's their best shot. So again, I'm gonna predict Whiplash wins, but I kind of want Valkyrie to upset Whiplash, and I'm saying this as a big-time Whiplash fan. I want to see if Valkyrie can do it, because not every bot gets a chance for a rematch with the experience of having already been beaten by that previous bot. I mean, I know that Huge has had it against Whiplash, and Hypershock's had it against Bite Force 3 times, and Bombshell's had it multiple times against Lockjaw. But still, though, even if you lose to the same bot twice, chances are you'll do better the second time. And while I think Whiplash is still going to win, I kind of want Valkyrie to upset Whiplash. I don't think it's going to happen, but there's a possibility. I'm officially picking Whiplash to win this fight again. Now we come to Uppercut versus Rebot. I don't want either of these bots to go. I really, really don't. I really don't. Uppercut, I was really accurate in my prediction on Uppercut beating Hijinks. And with Ribbot Biena, I was one of the few people that believed Ribbot would wipe the floor with Biena, and that John Reed had lost his mind as far as that anti-vert configuration. Which apparently he did, because, spoiler for those of you guys who have not seen the Bounty Hunter tournament, Biena fought Lockjaw in the final of that, and John Reed made the already bad configuration even worse by adding inverted forks. I refuse to understand the logic of that, because there is no logic in that. So anyway, we have Ribbot versus Uppercut here. Just went on a little John Reed rant just then. So, Uppercut versus Ribbot. I like both teams a lot. I don't see Ribbot upsetting Uppercut. I just don't. Because Uppercut, with the way that Uppercut's forks are designed, it's a very thin weapon profile, and I've said this multiple times. Uppercut is a bot that in theory should not work, but it somehow works because Alex Satori is an amazing driver, the bot is incredibly durable and reliable, the spinner just about never shuts down permanently, and as for the Ribbot team, they're also pretty well driven. I just don't think that they'll be able to match the weapon power of Uppercut. And I do believe that Uppercut will be able to tear Ribbot apart potentially. I don't know if someone's going out of the arena on this one. I'm not necessarily going to predict somebody goes out of the arena with Uppercut versus Ribbot. Of course it could happen. It's just I do think Uppercut's going to beat Ribbot, but this is a really tough fight. But I do predict Uppercut to move forward, and I do think Ribbot's time in the postseason is unfortunately done. I'll be really sad personally for one of these bots to go. I know one of them has to go, but I think Uppercut is going to win this fight. Now we have the big one, and the fight that I have wanted so badly since way before I even saw Black Dragon. Back when they were General and back when they were Federal MT in Robo games. I wanted Black Dragon or some derivative of General or Federal MT to fight Ray Billings and Tombstone. And here we finally have that match. So now, I've seen other people who have done their predictions and they did think that Black Dragon and Tombstone could meet up, as we know that they actually are. and people have put forth different arguments as to which one's going to win, because this is a really, really tough fight. I'm personally in the crowd that, okay, unless one of you guys say in the chat right now decides to spoil and ruin all of this for me like you did in the last premiere, and tell me that Tombstone somehow beats Black Dragon. You know, like I was spoiled about the Mad Catter fight and also the Lockjaw Shatter fight. I personally believe Black Dragon is going to wipe the floor with a Tombstone worse than Endgame did. Yes, I said that. I don't know if it's actually going to happen because, again, even in the premiere right now, one of you guys might actually type in some sort of spoiler that completely ruins that for me. But right now, as things stand, spoiler-free, I think Black Dragon will beat Tombstone because of a few reasons. One, Tombstone's already been through it so far this season. And yes, Ray Billings is not playing around anymore. He did use the black thick blade against Mad Catter. That helped him out a lot. He better use the same blade against Black Dragon, because Black Dragon is... Here's the thing, as long as the weapon doesn't shut down, Black Dragon has a chance. Even with the wedge, Black Dragon still has a good chance. Gabriel, I can't remember his last name. I think it used to be Bertoli, but I think he... I may be getting confused there. But Black Dragon, they have an amazing driver, though. Their weapon's pretty powerful. Chances are they're going to use their Egg Beater weapon for this fight, and of course the big anti-spinner wedge, because they have multiple different wedges. In the natural, guys, I do think Black Dragon would defeat Tombstone. I think it would be brutal and violent. Chances are kind of similar to the Endgame fight. One of these bots, Tombstone might be out of the arena, I don't know, but it could also go the same way as, say, Tombstone Scorpios, where it's just a really long, dragged-out fight, and then eventually Tombstone breaks itself. Again, guys, my spoiler-free opinion is I think Black Dragon is going to maul Tombstone. The only way, and here's the thing, again, one of you guys might have spoiled this in the live chat right now for all I know, because remember, I'm recording this in advance. I don't know if one of you guys are spoiling this in the chat right now, but I personally think Black Dragon's going to wipe the floor with Tombstone. And until one of you guys decides to spoil me on that, I'm going to stick with that opinion until I see the actual episode. So I think Black Dragon's going to beat Tombstone. It is going to be a tough fight. This is not exactly a gimme fight for Black Dragon. One thing also, Black Dragon's wheels, they're more so similar to Whiplash's new wheels or Copperhead's wheels, where instead of having a rubber tire with the rim inside, these are more so just solid rubber wheels. And so while I'm not saying that these are going to be able to tank hits from Tombstone like the frame or wedge will, I do personally think that Black Dragon might be able to take a clip from Tombstone's blade and the wheel won't tear off. So I do think Black Dragon would win this fight, although it will still be tough, but I do think they're going to take it. Now let's go over to the other side of the bracket once I figure out how my own computer works. There we go. Hopefully I'll be able to, let's see how this is going to work. Okay, I can just show the other side of the bracket here. So, now we have Bloodsport versus Tantrum. Oh boy, this is going to be an interesting fight, guys, because we know that Bloodsport no longer has their tri-bar spinner because it broke against Gruff. That tells me that they have two configurations now. They have their overhead disc and they have their overhead bar. I know they're going to go with the overhead bar, chances are. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a mistake. As for Tantrum, they really should go with the wedge, I think. I think them going with the forks against Fusion was kind of a risk. A risk that did not cause Tantrum to lose the fight, but still, though, I do think it was a risk. They're definitely going to go with the wedge, I think, this time. Oh boy, this is just about a 50-50 fight for me. On one hand, Tantrum is not going to let up and is just going to ram Bloodsport to death if it gets the chance. And especially if the vertical punching spinner is working correctly, they're going to get at least one uppercut on Bloodsport, I think. At least one. As for Bloodsport, they are most likely going to go with the double-ended long bar, which gives them reach. Here's the reason, guys, why I'm going to go once again against all logic and say the Bloodsport is probably going to win this fight. And it really comes down to the fact that Tantrum, with their wedge, their body is right here. This is something that I mentioned before. I don't like the 2020 version or the Season 5 version Tantrum's wedge. Because if you guys remember back in their Valkyrie fight, they have a really, really tiny wedge. Is it durable? Yes, surprisingly it is. Is it the best design wedge? It's a pretty good design. Is it better than their 2019 wedge? Absolutely no, because their 2019 wedge was a much wider plow that was kind of reminiscent of Bite Force, the 2015, and also the spinner version of Bite Force, their anti-spinner wedge. That wedge was awesome. Their wedge they have now is not, design-wise. And Bloodsport, especially with a double-ended bar, is going to have a world's worth of reach to it. Here's another thing. Also, again, spoiler for those of you that haven't seen the Bounty Hunters episode. In the Bounty Hunters episode, Bloodsport exclusively used their double-ended bar, which tells me two things. One, it kind of gave me an idea that, they would maybe something happen to their other blades, like their tri-bar and their disc. And also, that bar was intact up until Lockjaw broke it. I don't think the bar would be intact if Tantrum got that many good spinner hits. Bloodsport has enough range with the spinner, with their double-ended spinner, that I think they're going to cleave into the frame, or who knows, maybe even bend up the punching spinner again. And if you guys remember in the Tantrum Fusion fight, Tantrum did have some drive issues toward the end of the fight. They were getting caught on the floor. Their armor was bent in, I believe. They were having some sort of drive issue there. And if Tantrum versus Valkyrie happens again, that'll be a very sad day for Team Tantrum. Again, it's really hard for me to because, I want both of these bots to do good, and so far they already have to make it this far. I think Bloodsport's going to win this fight. I am kind of taking a gamble there, but I do think they could win this fight, so I'm going to pick Bloodsport for this. Sorry, Tantrum. And Tantrum, if you win, great. That's still awesome. Now we have Sawblaze versus the bot that shall not be named. Oh, goodness. You guys know that this fight already happened back in 2019. In fact, this is a rematch from the quarterfinals of last season, 2019. In that fight, Sawblaze got torn apart. And unfortunately, there is a really, really good chance, it's probably like an 80% chance, I would say, that the exact same thing is going to happen to Sawblaze in this fight. I am thinking about one thing, however, and that one thing being, I hope I'm remembering this correctly. I believe Sawblaze has an additional attachment where, kind of like Scorpios were supposed to, they do have forks extending on the front. They did. They used that in their Rusty fight, didn't they? The reason I'm bringing this up is because that is more of a anti-vertical configuration. If the Sawblaze team is smart, and I do like Jameson Go, and I know that he is a pretty good tactician overall and a very good driver, chances are he would have learned from his previous mistake in their last fight. And I believe that he would probably have those prongs on, maybe drive a little bit better. And so, again, guys, probably 80% chance this spot's going to win. I'll just say it as it is. There's a really high chance this spot's going to win. I'm going to go against all logic and go with Sawblaze on this one, because I believe Jameson Go probably learned from his mistake. That extra attachment might be able to help him, and I think he's going to drive a little bit better than he did last time. For one thing, if he drives anything like he did against a Whiplash, he's got this. If he just goes all-out aggression, gets around to the sides, then I think that he could win this fight, especially since if he actually manages to get a good overhead hit on the rib cage or right in the center here, he could potentially really break something important. Now, granted, this fight could go to a decision, honestly. It could end with a knockout. It's probably going to end with a knockout. But it could also go to a decision with Sawblaze winning. I'm not sure. So I'm going to go up against all logic and say the Saw Blaze could win this fight, although again, there's a really good chance I'll be wrong about this one. Next we have Mammoth versus Shatter, a fight that I don't think hardly anybody saw happening. But just so you guys know though, this fight happened before. It was in a tournament that I saw in 2019 that I cannot remember the name of. I am so sorry for that. But in this smaller tournament, I remember no spinners were allowed, and this was a smaller tournament. And Hypershock, Krusty Krab, Mammoth, effectively Shatter, and I think Bale Spear, just a whole bunch of Slammo, a bunch of different bots competed at this tournament. You guys will probably know which one it is. You guys will probably let me know in the premiere in the live chat. So Mammoth versus Shatter already happened then. And if I recall correctly, Shatter got around to the backside of Mammoth and swung the hammer and hit this box at the back. If I remember correctly. So, what I think is going to happen, not just, and it's two things. One, because they fought before and Shatter won. And two, remember guys, Shatter's supposed to fight Endgame. Chances are they fight later on, which means Shatter wins this fight. So anyway, I think Shatter's going to win this fight. Mammoth could toss Shatter around a bit, but one thing I want to mention, I thought Lockjaw would get right underneath Shatter. Lockjaw's fork somehow could not get underneath Shatter properly. And if Lockjaw can't get underneath Shatter, no way Mammoth is getting underneath Shatter. No way. Now granted, Mammoth could toss Shatter around a bit, but I do think Shatter is going to defeat Mammoth by a KO. Probably not. Probably going to go the distance here. But I'm going to say Shatter wins, partially because of their previous fight, and partially because of the darn spoilers. So I'm going to say Shatter wins this. Now we come to, is the final? Yes, the final. The last match of the round of 16. We have Endgame versus Rotator. Oh, goodness gracious. I am so sorry, Victor Soto. You are toast. Mostly because of spoilers again. And partially because, design-wise, Endgame is the perfect counter to Rotator. And I'm saying this again as somebody that really likes Rotator, really likes Endgame, wish they could both go forward. This is, let me tell you what, guys, this is going to be Bite Force versus Rotator all over again, chances are. Where, even if Rotator starts out strong and gets a couple of good hits, Endgame's wedge is going to stay solid the whole time, and Rotator's going to stay solid the whole time. In fact, they both might still be spinning by the end of the fight, because both of them, especially Rotator, is extremely durable and just will not die. And also, their wheel guards held up incredibly well against Jackpot, and we know how powerful Jackpot is. But I just don't think, partially because of spoilers, because these two are going to meet, remember that Endgame could possibly lose to Rotator. I think this is going to be Bite Force versus Rotator all over again. It's going to be ugly. It's just going to be Endgame tossing Rotator around the arena like a ragdoll. And I think that Rotator is sadly toast for this fight, but still, it is going to be a really, really entertaining fight. I do not believe that this is going to be as fast as Endgame versus Tombstone, Endgame versus Hypershock, or Endgame versus Perfect Phoenix over here. I think this is going to be a lengthy fight, and it could test Endgame's reliability and durability, honestly. Excuse me. But I don't think, though, that Rotator's going to win this fight. I'm going to give this to Endgame. So, that is going to be my predictions, guys, for Battlebots Season 5, the round of 16. Now, I'm thinking to myself right now, should I or should I not give you guys my predictions for the quarterfinals, how those fights will go? I'm not going to, because I don't even know, I legitimately don't know if my predictions now are going to get even close to correct, especially on some of them. Just in case you guys are curious, however, if Gigabyte does beat Hydra, and then goes up to fight Whiplash, let's say that Valkyrie doesn't upset Whiplash, Gigabyte's toast if Gigabyte fights Whiplash. Enough said. Whiplash beats Senwaiachi, they're They've proven this season, especially against Valkyrie, that they are pretty good at dealing with horizontal spinners. And I think Gigabyte is toast, sadly. And then say that Uppercut gets to fight Black Dragon. Actually, I'll do it both ways, just in case. If Uppercut gets to fight Black Dragon, you can say goodbye to the Brazilian team. Because Uppercut will get underneath Black Dragon, especially if Black Dragon decides to use the wrong configuration like they did against Copperhead, where instead of their forks they use the wedge. Really, really bad decision making there. If that happens, Uppercut's going to take the win. Even if it doesn't happen, I still think Uppercut will take the win, because Uppercut's forks are thin enough, they will fit right between these two front prongs, get underneath Black Dragon, and maybe even rip the whole wedge off. Also, pretend that Uppercut and Tombstone happens. That fight's going to be over in one hit. I'm doing this just in case. The main prediction's over, guys. This is just pure speculative nonsense I'm blabbering at this point. If Uppercut fights Tombstone, that fight is probably going to end in one hit. I do think Uppercut could beat Tombstone, but it is going to be a really tough one-hit win for one of those bots. Onto the other side, what if Bloodsport beats Tantrum? And what if Bloodsport has to fight either Sawblaze or the bot that shall not be named? If Bloodsport fights Sawblaze, first of all, Bloodsport will go with the overhead disc instead of their bars. In that case, they're still going to lose to Sawblaze, I think, because I think Sawblaze could get underneath them. And while it won't be able to kill Bloodsport, I think that fight will go the whole distance. Still, there might be a reason for why Bloodsport did not use their overhead disc in the Bounty Hunter episode. Might be because somebody might have cracked the disc. And I don't think Tantrum would be the one to do it, because they wouldn't use the disc against Tantrum. They would use the disc against Sawblaze. And so knowing that, I think Sawblaze would beat Bloodsport, probably not by a KO. Not by a KO. But by a probably unanimous decision, I think. And let's say what would happen if Bloodsport fights the robot that shall not be named. Unfortunately, Bloodsport would lose that fight, I think, as this robot has defeated Tombstone, Shredderator, Gigabyte. It's really, really good at killing horizontal spinners. Bloodsport would be out of the arena if that happened. Now, what would happen if... let's see what happens next. Okay, first of all, we know Shatter versus Endgame happens. We already know that. So let's just jump ahead. Who do I think is going to win Shatter versus Endgame? I think Endgame is going to get right underneath Shatter and is going to uppercut the living heck out of it. Now, I know that I predicted this with Lockjaw, but again, unless one of you guys spoils it for me, I'm going to say that Endgame will defeat Shatter, although that would actually be a really entertaining fight. It all depends on, will Endgame's forks get underneath Shatter, get it a good hit, and two, will Shatter's hammer actually get a lucky shot on Endgame's weapon belts? There's actually this fight in King of Bots in China, the first season, where I think it was Blue versus 2 Barbecue. I may be getting the name wrong on the second bot. But if you want to see Endgame versus Shatter, basically the first version, I know they're not the same teams, especially the vertical spinner one. But if you want to essentially see that fight, what I think about it, watch that King of Bots episode, Season 1. It was a Blue versus, I think, 2 Barbecue. And because 2 Barbecue is effectively Chinese Endgame, effectively. And Blue is just Shatter without the blade of armor. And Blue did not stand a chance in that fight. It got tossed around like a ragdoll. I think that's what's going to happen when Endgame fights Shatter, because we've been spoiled, they do fight. So that's just going to be my opinion on if my predictions are correct, which I know that they're going to be correct for Shatter and Endgame, that they will fight each other. So I pretty much know that these other predictions are going to be right. This part here is basically safe territory. This is also perfectly safe territory. The others I don't know about. So we'll see when the next episode debuts. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. This was a pretty lengthy predictions video, as you guys were probably expecting, similar to the first one. We got to talk about my previous predictions, my predictions for the round of 16, And I even went into speculative territory that I normally don't go into. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, also consider subscribing, and yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.